Life has a way of setting you apart when you're marked for something greater. You may not understand it while you're going through it, but isolation is never random. It's not punishment, it's preparation. When you feel cut off from the crowd, when doors that used to open suddenly shut, when friends fade and support dries up, that's not rejection, it's divine redirection. See, when you're chosen, you can't move like everybody else. You can't think like everybody else. And you sure can't live like everybody else. There's a higher standard placed on your life, and isolation becomes the training ground where character is built. Discipline is sharpened, and vision becomes clear. Think about it. Some of the greatest breakthroughs don't come in the noise of the crowd, but in the silence of being set apart. When distractions are stripped away, you start to hear that inner voice louder. You start to recognize the difference between what you want and what you need. You begin to see that not every separation is a loss. Sometimes it's protection. Not every absence is abandonment. Sometimes it's alignment. You're being pulled away from people, places, and patterns that can't go with you to the next level. And while it may feel lonely, you're not alone. You're being positioned. There's a purpose behind every season of isolation. It's where you learn endurance when nobody's watching, faith when resources run thin, and obedience when it would be easier to give in. It's in those moments of quiet struggle that greatness is carved out of your soul. It's not glamorous, it doesn't come with applause, but it produces strength that crowds could never give you. Because when you're chosen, you're not being built for the applause of men, you're being built for the assignment of God. And make no mistake, being chosen comes with weight. It means you carry something others can't handle. It means your path won't look like theirs. It means you'll face trials that break others but refine you. Isolation is the furnace where impurities burn off, where patience is stretched, and where humility is anchored. It's the unseen work that makes the public victories possible. Without isolation, you wouldn't have the maturity to manage the blessing or the wisdom to steward the opportunity. So when you feel set apart, don't despise it. That distance isn't designed to destroy you. It's designed to develop you. It's proof that your journey requires a different kind of preparation. It's a reminder that you were never meant to blend in, you were meant to stand out. And before you're trusted with influence, before you're elevated to purpose, you must first be isolated, because the chosen are never made in the crowd. They're shaped in the quiet, refined in the hidden, and revealed in the right time. When isolation comes into your life, it rarely feels like a gift. At first, it feels like a stripping away, like something has been taken from you that you thought you needed. Friends stop calling, opportunities seem to disappear, and the spaces that once felt so alive suddenly feel empty. But if you can look deeper, if you can shift your perspective, you'll realize that isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. It's not meant to harm you, but to build you into the version of yourself that can handle the weight of the purpose you've been chosen for. Think about a seed. Before it becomes a tree, before it bears fruit, before it stands tall in the sunlight, it is buried in the dirt, covered, hidden from the world. To the seed, it may look like darkness, like abandonment, but in reality, it's a season of preparation where roots are formed and strength is built. That's exactly what isolation does to the chosen. When you are set apart, there are things in you that need to be developed without distraction. Crowds may cheer you, but crowds can also drown out the inner voice you need to hear. Isolation quiets the noise so you can recognize what is real. It forces you to confront yourself, to sit with your thoughts, your fears, and your doubts. And in that space, you discover who you truly are when no one is watching. It's easy to look strong when you've got people clapping for you. It's easy to feel confident when validation comes pouring in. But when all that is stripped away, and it's just you, that's where true identity is revealed. That's where you learn if your faith is real, if your character is solid, if your vision is clear enough to stand the test of silence. Preparation through isolation also teaches discipline. When no one is around to push you, to encourage you, or to remind you of your goals, you must learn to push yourself. You discover the power of consistency, the importance of focus, and the necessity of resilience. These are qualities that can't be borrowed from others. They have to be built within you. And the only way they grow is through pressure, through challenge, through seasons where you don't have anyone else to lean on. Isolation is where you stop being carried by the energy of the crowd and start being carried by the strength of your own conviction. Another layer of preparation in isolation is clarity. When you're surrounded by too many voices, it's hard to distinguish which one is yours, which one is God's, and which ones are distractions. But when you're pulled away and placed in silence, suddenly what seemed confusing starts to make sense. You begin to see patterns in your life, connections between past struggles and future purpose. You start to recognize that not every door that closed was a rejection. Some of them were divine protection, keeping you from places that would have stunted your growth. Clarity comes not in the chaos of the crowd, but in the stillness of being set apart. And perhaps one of the most important aspects of preparation is endurance. Being chosen doesn't mean life gets easier. In fact, it often means the opposite. The path is heavier, the responsibility greater, the challenge is more intense. That's why isolation is necessary. It's where your endurance is built, where you learn to keep going even when no one is clapping, where you practice holding on to your vision even when there's no visible progress. Endurance doesn't come from comfort, it comes from struggle, and isolation gives you the room to struggle without distraction, so that when the spotlight does come, you are ready to carry the weight. Preparation in isolation is not something to be feared or resented. It is a refining process, a shaping process, a strengthening process. It's the season where the unseen work takes place so that the seen results can last. Without preparation, promotion will crush you. Without isolation, influence will overwhelm you. That's why when God isolates the chosen, it is always for preparation, never for punishment. Separation often feels like loss, but when you look at it through the lens of purpose, it is protection. Not everyone who starts the journey with you is meant to finish it with you. Not every friend, not every relationship, not every environment can handle the weight of your calling. There are people who may have been good for your past, but are dangerous for your future. And sometimes the only way to move you forward is to remove them from your circle. It hurts, yes, because you get attached. You build history, you share memories, but growth requires pruning. Just like a gardener cuts away branches that look alive but are blocking fruit from growing, separation works the same way in your life. It's not about rejection, it's about alignment, creating space for the right people, the right opportunities, the right seasons to find you. When you're chosen, your life has a different trajectory. That means your circle cannot look like everyone else's circle. You can't stay surrounded by people who drain you, distract you, or derail you from your assignment. Separation becomes the way God clears the path. There are relationships that look supportive on the surface but secretly limit your growth. There are voices that sound like encouragement but really feed your insecurities. There are environments that feel comfortable but keep you small. If you don't separate, you settle, and settling is the enemy of destiny. So separation, as painful as it feels, is the very thing that keeps you from compromising the greatness planted inside you. Think about an eagle. Before it soars to new heights, it leaves the comfort of the nest. That separation is necessary for it to discover the power in its wings. The nest was good for a season, but it was never meant to be permanent. The same goes for you. Some people were good for your nest season, but if you keep them around in your flight season, they'll weigh you down. Separation makes sure you don't mistake temporary companionship for lifelong partnership. It teaches you discernment. It forces you to evaluate who is really for you and who is simply around you. Because not everybody who's close to you is connected to your destiny, and not everyone connected to your destiny will start close to you. Separation is also about protecting your energy. When you're chosen, your spirit carries weight. You don't have time to be drained by constant negativity, endless drama, or toxic cycles. You need your energy for building, for growing, for creating, for leading. If you give all your energy to maintaining relationships that don't feed your spirit, you won't have enough left to invest in your purpose. That's why God allows separation to happen. Sometimes it looks like betrayal, sometimes it feels like abandonment, but underneath it all, it's protection. It's God saying, I see what you can't see. I know what lies ahead. And this person, this place, this habit cannot go with you where I'm taking you. Another key to understanding separation is realizing it clears distractions. Imagine trying to run a race while carrying unnecessary baggage. You'll be slower, heavier, more exhausted, and eventually you'll burn out. Separation cuts that weight off. It doesn't mean you stop loving people. It doesn't mean you hold bitterness. It simply means you recognize that where you're going requires a lighter load. When you let go of what no longer serves your journey, you create room for what does. Some of the greatest blessings in your life are waiting for space to enter, but that space won't exist until separation takes place. So when separation shows up, don't see it as something being stolen from you. See it as something being shielded for you. You may not understand in the moment, but over time you'll see that certain relationships ending was the best thing that could have happened. Certain doors closing was a form of mercy. Certain people walking away was an answered prayer in disguise. Separation is not about what you lose, it's about what you're being preserved for. It's about protecting your destiny from influences that would compromise it, even if you can't see the danger yet. Silence has a power that most people underestimate. In a world filled with constant noise, endless voices, and distractions pulling you in every direction, silence can feel uncomfortable, even unbearable. But when you are chosen, silence becomes your sharpening ground. It is in silence that you begin to see yourself clearly, hear the voice within, and separate the temporary from the eternal. When the noise fades and the applause disappears, what remains is the raw essence of who you are. And it is there in that stillness that discipline is forged and clarity begins to cut through the fog. Silence strips away the crutches we often rely on. It takes away the validation of others, the comfort of constant company, the distractions that keep us from facing our true selves. In silence, you have no one to impress, no crowd to perform for, no mask to wear. You are forced to sit with your thoughts, your fears, your weaknesses, and your dreams. It's uncomfortable because silence doesn't let you hide. It reveals, it exposes, and in that exposure lies an opportunity, the opportunity to confront what needs to change and strengthen what needs to grow. Without silence, you keep running from yourself, but in silence, you are sharpened into who you are meant to be. Discipline is another gift that silence brings. When no one is watching, when there is no external push, you must learn how to push yourself. Discipline is not built in front of the crowd. It is built in private moments of decision. Do you stay focused when no one is holding you accountable? Do you stick to your commitments when there is no applause waiting at the end? Silence gives you the training ground to answer those questions. It is in the quiet hours, the unseen moments, that habits are built and strength is developed. The chosen cannot rely on external motivation because their journey requires an internal fire, and silence is the space where that fire is discovered and fueled. Clarity, too, is born in silence. With too many voices in your ear, it becomes difficult to know which direction to take. Everyone has an opinion, everyone has advice, and everyone has an expectation. But not every voice deserves access to your vision. In silence, the competing noise fades, and you begin to hear what truly matters. You hear your intuition louder. You hear God's direction clearer. You hear the lessons from your past without distortion. Suddenly, things that once seemed confusing start to make sense. You recognize patterns you missed before. You see what distractions were pulling you off course. You realize that some opportunities weren't blessings but bait, meant to keep you from your real path. Silence clears the fog and lets you see your destination with sharper focus. Silence also teaches patience. In the quiet, progress feels slow. Results aren't immediate, and recognition doesn't come. But patience is a necessary strength for the chosen. Purpose is not fulfilled overnight, and destiny requires endurance. Silence becomes the environment where you learn to trust the process even when you can't see the outcome. It builds the muscle of waiting without giving up, of moving forward without needing constant reassurance. That kind of patience is what keeps you steady when storms come, when criticism rises, when doubts creep in. It's the patience that allows you to keep building when no one notices, to keep believing when nothing looks different, to keep pressing when others quit. Another dimension of silence is how it removes dependence on the crowd. Many people thrive only when they are surrounded by noise, by company, by validation. But when the crowd is gone, they crumble. Silence prepares you so that you are not dependent on applause to keep moving. It teaches you how to stand on your own 2 feet, rooted in conviction rather than consensus. That way, when the spotlight eventually does come, you are not swayed by praise, nor are you broken by criticism. You are steady because your foundation was built in silence, not in noise. The sharpening of clarity and discipline in silence is not glamorous. It doesn't make headlines, and it won't get you instant recognition. But it is the hidden training ground for greatness. The chosen are always set apart, and part of that setting apart is being placed in silence, where they learn discipline that can't be shaken and clarity that cannot be clouded. Trials in isolation are never easy to endure, but they are some of the most valuable experiences in shaping strength and character. When you are chosen, your path is not meant to be smooth, because smooth roads don't create resilient travelers. The weight of your purpose requires you to be forged in fire, and isolation becomes that fire. It strips away the comfort of support systems, removes the applause of onlookers, and forces you to stand in the middle of challenges with nothing but your faith and determination. These trials feel heavy, sometimes unbearable, but they are not designed to break you. They are designed to refine you. Gold is only proven genuine when it is tested under intense heat, and the same is true of your character. Without the fire of isolation, what lies within you remains untested, undeveloped, and unproven. Strength built in isolation is different from strength built in public. Public strength often depends on the presence of others, the encouragement, the recognition, the validation. But private strength, the kind that comes from isolation, is rooted in something deeper. It comes from the battles nobody else sees, the tears cried in silence, the nights spent questioning, but still pressing forward. That kind of strength does not waver when people disappear. It does not crumble when circumstances shift. It is anchored, steady, immovable, because it was built away from the spotlight. Trials in isolation force you to depend on resilience rather than recognition, and resilience is what sustains you when everything else falls apart. Character is refined in those same moments. It is easy to present yourself as kind, disciplined, or faithful when people are watching. But true character is revealed when there are no eyes on you, when there is no external reward for doing the right thing. Isolation exposes the parts of you that need growth. It brings to the surface the pride, the impatience, the fear, the doubt, so they can be confronted and dealt with. Each trial becomes a mirror, showing you where you are strong and where you are still fragile. That exposure is not to shame you, but to shape you, because the chosen cannot afford to carry weak character into positions of influence. Without refinement, blessings can turn into burdens and opportunities can become downfalls. Isolation ensures that who you are on the inside can sustain what you are called to do on the outside. Trials also teach endurance. Isolation creates situations where you must keep walking without visible progress, where you must hold on when everything in you wants to let go. Endurance is not learned in moments of ease, but in seasons of difficulty. Every time you choose to stand when quitting seems easier, every time you decide to believe when doubt is louder, you build endurance. That endurance is what prepares you for the weight of destiny. It's what allows you to push through resistance when the stakes are higher, when more people are watching, when the cost of quitting is greater. Without the practice of endurance in isolation, you would collapse under the pressure of the public stage. One of the most powerful outcomes of trials in isolation is humility. Success without struggle often breeds arrogance, but success born from trials produces gratitude. When you've been through seasons where you had nothing but faith, when you've endured nights that seemed endless, when you've survived battles that should have taken you out, you come out different. You come out knowing that your strength is not just your own. You come out with compassion for others in struggle because you know what it feels like. You come out with a groundedness that keeps you from being intoxicated by praise. Humility becomes a natural result of surviving isolation because you know what it took to stand. Every trial in isolation leaves a mark on you, but those marks are not scars of defeat. They are signatures of resilience. They are proof that you've been tested, refined, and made stronger. The chosen cannot be fragile because their calling is heavy. That's why isolation does not spare them from trials. It sends them directly into them. Each trial strips away what is weak and builds up what is unshakable. Strength and character forged in those seasons are not temporary. They last a lifetime and carry you into every level that follows. The hidden seasons of life are some of the most misunderstood yet most critical times in the journey of the chosen. When you are set apart, you are not immediately placed in front of the world. Instead, you are often tucked away, unseen, overlooked, and forgotten by many. It can feel unfair, like your gifts are wasted or your efforts ignored. But in reality, this hidden place is where you are being shaped for what is coming. The chosen are never revealed too soon, because premature exposure can destroy what unprepared character cannot sustain. Isolation in the hidden seasons becomes the workshop where your purpose is refined, your maturity is tested, and your spirit is made strong enough to handle the weight of destiny. Being hidden is not the same as being abandoned. It is a protective space where you are shielded from distractions, temptations, and pressures that would have crushed you if you were exposed too early. In the hidden place, you are given the chance to grow roots deep enough to survive storms. Just like a tree doesn't sprout fruit in its first season, but instead spends years developing roots underground, you too must be hidden long enough to establish a foundation that will not fail when the spotlight finally shines. Without this process, visibility can become a curse rather than a blessing. Fame, influence, or opportunity in the absence of preparation almost always leads to collapse. But when you have been hidden, when you've been tested in silence, you are able to stand in the open without losing yourself. The hidden season also serves as a refining ground for humility. When no one is watching, you have no reason to perform. You learn to do the work for the sake of growth, not for applause. You discover what it means to be faithful in small things, to give your best effort even when there's no recognition. This kind of humility is critical for the chosen, because influence without humility leads to pride, and pride always precedes destruction. In the hidden season, you are reminded that your value does not come from the opinions of others, but from the calling on your life. That understanding anchors you so that when recognition does eventually come, you are not defined by it, nor are you destroyed by its absence. Another critical part of being shaped in the hidden is the sharpening of vision. In quiet seasons, away from the noise and expectations of others, you gain clarity about what you're called to do. You begin to see not just what looks good, but what is truly right for your path. The silence of being unseen helps you identify distractions more easily, and you learn to focus your energy on what truly matters. This sharpening process makes sure that when the doors of opportunity open, you walk through them with intention rather than desperation. Vision is what keeps you steady, and vision is forged most powerfully in hidden places, where noise cannot cloud your sight. There is also an element of patience that develops in hidden seasons. The chosen must learn to wait without resentment, to prepare without rushing, and to believe without evidence. This kind of patience cannot be taught in comfort. It is only learned in moments where you feel forgotten, where progress is invisible, where nothing seems to move forward. Yet it is in these waiting periods that patience roots itself deeply in your spirit. Patience keeps you from grabbing at the wrong opportunities out of fear of missing out. Patience makes sure you are ready not just to reach your destiny, but to sustain it once you arrive. The hidden place ultimately becomes the furnace where every weakness is burned off, every gift is sharpened, and every piece of your character is aligned with your calling. It is not glamorous, it is not easy, but it is necessary. Without being shaped in the hidden, the chosen cannot stand in the open. Without being refined away from the eyes of others, they cannot be trusted to carry influence before the eyes of many. The chosen are always developed in silence before they are revealed in power.